Husakos.
Senator Gold, the Trudeau government, in its infinite wisdom in February in the estimates, gave an extra $100 million a year to CBC, raising the taxpayer-funded subsidy to CBC to close to $1.4 billion. In the meantime, CBC has hit rock bottom in terms of viewership, rock bottom in terms of ratings, rock bottom in terms of ad revenue, and the geniuses that your government has appointed to the board of CBC decided to issue management $15 million in bonuses for their wonderful work. Some executives at CBC earn as much as $500,000 with their bonuses. Senator Gold, wouldn't you agree that if the Trudeau government and the CBC lived in the real world, that company would be bankrupt and closed?
Senator Gold.
Senator, thank you for your question and for your ongoing criticism and attacks on the CBC. And I say that with as much seriousness as I can muster. The real world is not simply a world where market decisions and market forces not only dominate but exclude all other forms of involvement in our collective life. The CBC, as a public broadcaster, serves an important function. No question it is falling on hard times. No question that it and others around the world are facing increased competition from web giants and from changes in the way in which current generations and younger generations consume information and news. It does not, however, follow that it does not serve a useful public purpose.
Senator Husakos.
Senator Gold, we know already your government doesn't care about market forces. It's obvious. Just look at your fiscal budget and your situation. But don't you also care about ratings? No one's paying attention. So this public service that you're offering, no one's actually buying into it or looking at the CBC for the $1.4 billion you're investing in the CBC. And those are the facts. Now, C11, which of course your government forced upon this institution, was supposed to change everything. Clearly, you also must agree that it failed, and will your government repeal C11 and go back to the drawing board?
Senator Gold.
You make it so hard to resist reminding us that there are politicians south of the border that seem more concerned about ratings than good public policy. The fact remains that if you speak to Canadians across this country, you know what I'm talking about. If you speak to Canadians across this country, you know that many of them, especially in smaller communities, continue to rely upon the CBC, and the CBC has dedicated itself to finding ways and to adapt to this new reality.
Senator Lafreda. Senator Husakos.
Senator Gold, I want to go back to the CBC because CBC has announced that there's 800 pending layoffs that are coming. So when you talk about the fact that CBC has hit hard times, it's not new. The CBC's ratings have been crashing now for many years. And if they lay off these 800 employees, their ratings are probably going to go down to zero. And you talk about hitting hard times. The only people that have hit hard time is taxpayers who are paying for a service, Senator Gold, that clearly they don't want. So my question is very, very simple. Why the ideological hang-up with your government on spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year on a service that Canadians have turned their back on? They're not watching. So you talk about consumerism like it's some kind of a negative. Consumerism, you know what it is? It's taxpayers. That's who the consumers are. Why is your government forcing taxpayers to pay for a service they're not receiving and don't want? Why are you forcing them to pay for it?
Senator Gold.
I said nothing negative about consumerism. I simply mentioned that there are different ways in which a country as vast as Canada can choose to support or not support public non-commercial broadcasting. The government in Canada historically has made a decision to have a national public broadcaster, as other countries have done, that it is challenged by changing times and challenged, if I can use your words, from those with an ideology that is if not indeed hostile, although that might be not an unfair term, but certainly indifferent to the values and virtues of something that is not exclusively driven by market forces. These are political choices that parties and governments are entitled to make. The CBC is struggling and will continue to try to work to become more relevant to Canadians. There are lots of Canadians who are still benefit from CBC and want to see it continue.
Senator Husakos.
Senator Gold, your government professes to care about broadcasting in general, where private broadcasters are struggling as well. Yet you're subsidizing at a tune of $1.4 billion a public broadcaster and allowing him to compete for private advertising against those private broadcasters. Do you see the problem? Do you see how it doesn't add up? You either care about broadcasting and the health of broadcasting and let it grow and prosper by pulling out an organ like the CBC that's just competing in that marketplace and being paid to compete against broadcasters by your government.
Senator Gold.
What I do see, Senator Husakos, is that there is a serious policy challenge facing public broadcaster in this 21st century. The question is simply, what is the responsible way to address it? Your party and you have a particular view. It is not one that's shared by the Government of Canada.
Senator Platt.